Welcome to this explainer. Ever look at an English sentence and think, man, this is just a confusing jumble of words? You're definitely not alone. But today, we're going to look at sentences as crime scenes, well, grammar scenes, where every single word has a highly specific role to play. By the end of our time together, you'll be able to quickly identify the key players, the direct and indirect objects.
Here's our docket for today. We're going to start by finding the direct object. Then we'll meet the indirect object. After that, swapping order with prepositions, some special rules for read and write, and finally, action versus linking verbs. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. Finding the direct object.
All right, the absolute most crucial thing to know here is that a direct object is the core receiver of the action in your sentence. It can be a noun, it can be a pronoun, but its whole job, just sitting right there and taking whatever action the verb is dishing out.
So how do we find it? Well, every good grammar detective uses this super simple three-step interrogation technique. Step 1, locate that action verb. Step 2, look right at the verb and ask who or what. And step 3, whatever answers that specific question, boom, that's your direct object.
Let's actually see this in practice. Take a look at this sentence. His landlord is raising the rent. If we apply our little technique here, we first track down our action verb, which is raising. Then we interrogate it. We ask, his landlord is raising what?
And the answer is clearly the rent, making it our direct object. It's the literal thing directly receiving the action of being raised.
Now, this comparison brilliantly illustrates a huge point. Direct objects are never adverbs like briskly, and they're never prepositional phrases like to the store. Why? Because only her dog actually answers that who or what question. Think about it. If you ask, Joanne walked what, briskly doesn't make any sense at all. That tells you how. To the store tells you where, but her dog, that tells you exactly what she walked, and that makes the dog the direct receiver of the action.
Moving right along to Section 2, meeting the indirect object.
Often a person, or maybe an animal, the indirect object is basically our secondary receiver. It tells us to who or for whom the action is being performed. But listen, you've got to remember the golden rule of our grammar investigation here. You generally cannot have an indirect object without a direct object already being there. The indirect object literally relies on the direct object's existence.
Let's interrogate this new sentence. Jeff gave Caroline a chess set. We're going to use our new set of questions. First up, let's find that direct object. Jeff gave what? A chess set. Perfect. Now we look for the indirect object. Jeff gave a chess set to who?
The answer is Caroline. That makes her the indirect object receiving the direct object, which, again, is the chess set. Do you see how they work so perfectly together? Caroline gets the chess set, and the chess set gets given.
All right, part 3, swapping order with prepositions. This is where it gets fun.
Now, what's incredibly interesting here is that when you put the direct object first, you actually have to bring in a preposition to act as an accomplice. Look at structure 1, which is the most common order. The indirect object, me, comes right before the direct object, a book. She gave me a book. Smooth, right? No extra words needed. But check out structure 2. If we want to emphasize the book and put that direct object first, saying, she gave a book, we suddenly need a bridge to connect it back to the indirect object. That bridge is our preposition, making it she gave a book to me.
Looking at these examples, we can see exactly which prepositions act as the glue for different verbs when we swap those objects around. And honestly, not all verbs take the same preposition. The English language absolutely loves to keep us on our toes. So, verbs generally divide themselves into two main camps, those that take the word to and those that take the word for.
The rule of thumb here is actually pretty logical. You're going to use the preposition to for verbs dealing with giving, showing, or telling. Think of a literal direction, You send an email to your boss, or you show a house to someone. On the flip side, you'll use for when dealing with making, buying, or performing a service. It's really all about doing a favor, like you buy coffee for us, you cook dinner for your family.
Section 4, special rules for read and write.
So remember how I said earlier that you usually need a direct object to even have an indirect object? Well, read and write are special little exceptions. If you are dropping the direct object entirely from these specific verbs, you absolutely have to bring in your preposition to make the sentence work. You can't just leave the indirect object hanging there all by itself.
Let's compare these two structures to really get this. Because there's no direct object, like, say, an email or a letter, in this sentence, we are strictly required to use the preposition to before the indirect object, her parents.
Just saying, she must write her parents feels, well, kind of incomplete grammatically in this context, right? Adding the to makes it totally correct. She must write to her parents.
And finally, section 5, action and linking verbs. Here's the deal. Only action verbs like saw can actually have objects. Linking verbs like be, look, taste, or smell, they simply connect the subject to a description. They don't take objects at all. In the first sentence here, saw is a direct action happening to the boy. The boy is the direct object. But in the second sentence, is just links Zachary to his description as a silly boy. There's no action happening to the boy, so there are absolutely no objects here at all.
This naturally brings us to the formal grammatical terms you might encounter in the wild. Transitive verbs take direct objects, while intransitive verbs do not. Simple as that. So saw in our previous example is a transitive verb because it transfers its action directly to an object. Linking verbs and action verbs that just describe something happening without it happening to anything, those are always intransitive.
I'm going to leave you with this final puzzle so you can apply your brand new grammar detective skills. Look really closely at this sentence. Sean liked my lesson on direct object. We have a subject, we have an action verb, and we even have a direct object. He liked what? The lesson. But wait, why exactly is there no indirect object here? Think back to the definition we established earlier about who or what the action is done for or to. Honestly, I highly encourage you to keep questioning the structures of the sentences you read today. Once you start seeing this underlying framework of direct and indirect objects, you'll literally never look at a sentence the same way again. So, what's your verdict on this final puzzle? Thanks for diving into this explainer with me.